Hi, everyone, and welcome back to What Moves You with Jessie. Today, I am joined by a very dear human in the Three Principles community who I unfortunately, but now fortunately, have not had the opportunity to meet until this moment, literally 5 minutes ago. But he is a magnificent leader within the community of the understanding that I share with you here on the podcast. He also is helping to put together the Three Principles UK conference that Aaron Turner, who was just recently on the podcast, is also doing, coming up here in June. And so I really, just like I said at the top of Aaron's episode, I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to have a conversation and also to promote this incredible event that is accessible for basically anybody, anybody around the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So without further ado, this is Shaul Rosenblatt. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you, Jessie. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, so wonderful. So tell us, where are you in the world? You're in London yourself, yes?
Yes, I'm in London, absolutely. And it's a beautiful day here today. You know, I love, people often complain about British weather. You know, I love the British weather. Weather-wise, there's nowhere I'd rather be in the world. You get seasons here, you get variety. The days that are beautiful are the most beautiful possible days you can imagine. And I love the rain. I like being out in the rain. I like getting wet. You know, it's got everything, the British climate. Just a bit more snow. I'd love a bit more snow. That's the only thing we don't get enough of. But so it was a beautiful British, I suppose, spring day today. So I've been enjoying it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I have to say, Shaul, so you separate from the Three Principles UK conference that you put on, you also have an organization yourself that is your around the clock, year round contribution to the world. Can you actually share a little bit about that? Because I am interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a rabbi for my sins. And so, and a rabbi is somebody who's sort of I suppose you would say supposed to be at least a spiritual leader in the Jewish community and to sort of give spiritual guidance. I have found over the years, being in the Jewish community, and it's probably true of many religious communities, although I can only really speak for my own, that in some ways we've kind of lost our way a little bit. You know, the religion has become quite ossified, quite go through the motions, rote, lost the feeling, lost its sense of purpose and direction. And to me, that's not what religion is about. Religion is about a relationship with God. Religion is about touching something deeper. Is about connecting to something beyond. Is spiritual. Is about connecting to people and loving people and being of service to people and to the world. That to me is what a religion should be. And I find that in many ways, just many in Judaism have kind of lost that sense of what it's about. And it's just the form. The content has been lost because of the form. And so years ago, I set up an organization that was about trying to bring Judaism back to its roots, its ancient roots of the idea of being of service, of contributing, of connecting, of uplifting and uplifting the world around us, of living as a role model for those around you. And so I set up an organization called Tikkun, which in Hebrew means, it's a hard word to translate, but it means really kind of fixing the world, really. It's a very strong Jewish value, the idea of fixing our world, that our world is I don't like to say the word broken, it's a bit harsh, but our world is not how it should be, and there's so much more available to human beings in this world if we would but know how to take advantage of it and use it and use it to benefit each other rather than against each other, as happens a lot of the time. And so I wanted to really kind of reawaken that sense in the Jewish community. So I set up the organization, and I did it for a number of years. And then I had this realization that if I really want to do this, the best way probably is to create more leadership. To me, leadership is how you make broader changes in the world than just yourself, if you can train leaders. And I just had this thought 6-7 years ago, hey, maybe I could train rabbis. Maybe I could train other rabbis to be like myself and to have this same vision and to want to go out there and share. And so I started a program called the Rabbinic Training Academy, which, as you mentioned earlier, is absolutely founded and underpinned by the principles, by the 3 principles. And I always say that if I didn't have the 3 principles, I wouldn't even bother. I wouldn't waste my time, because I feel the 3 principles are the only thing that I've found that really, I'm not saying there aren't other things out there, but in my experience, the only thing I've found that really have the ability to point people towards something deeper in themselves in a real way, in a real-time way, not in theories, not in concepts, not in ideas. Lots of great ideas out there, lots of great concepts, and I had all those things as a rabbi. You wanted me to talk, I could give you it all and give you some great ideas and great concepts, but was I really a spiritual human being? And was I really able to share spirituality with others? No, I don't think I was. And it was the principles that really pointed me to something that I knew all along. It was like coming home to something that I knew, certainly as a religious person that I knew that's what I was looking for. I knew where I wanted to go. I didn't know how to get there. And the principles kind of awoke something in me that I really have been looking for in my life. And it also showed me a way to point others to that as well, and gave me a language to be able to point others to that. So that's my main focus. My main focus is this Rabbinic Training Academy. I have 20 rabbis at the moment who are training with me. And hopefully we're making some impact, hopefully. But
I am where you are. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. I actually, when I was looking into you a little bit further, as far as we
research
these days on the Google research,
yeah, that's right, exactly, absolutely, as you need to do.
But I so appreciated that your bio on one of your organization pages was so simple, and I remember it was like 4 lines, and it said something about you have a quick wit and you really enjoy life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It was so dear. So, and I make that point to say I can feel that already.
No, okay.
So nice. Your bio is on the money.
Thank you very much.
So you're saying some really beautifully deep things that I think is such a wonderful bridge that I would love to kind of poke around in, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Especially because I think it's a wonderful thing for people to hear with potential interest in attending, whether it be in person or virtual, for the 3 Principles UK conference.
Absolutely.
Being that the 3 principles isn't pointing to has nothing to do with religion, but deeply obviously pointing to the spiritual nature of who we are and how life works.
Absolutely.
Which was a huge gift for me. It was like a big glass of water to a very thirsty person when I realized that there was a deeper part of me that had nothing to do with my busy mind.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying about how you felt a sense of, what I'm getting from you is that there was a sense of depth that kind of came into play around your own religious beliefs and how you were moving through the world before. It's almost like what I'm hearing from you is that having an understanding of how we work inside deepened that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you bridge that for me and share the experience there?
Yeah. Look, let's let me try and say it a few different ways, but the one way I would say it is that as a religious person, I always, religion is about God, and I always had this concept of God and this idea of God and this sense of God and what God is, but it was theory, it was intellect. This, I feel touched by God's presence in my life now, or I do at times, also get very lost and distracted and caught up in the nonsense of the world, as we all do. But there are certainly moments when I get really connected and I really feel something so much deeper within myself. And that I, as a religious person, refer to that as God, but you don't have to use that word. It's something deeper, something spiritual, something more connected. And so it was going from the theory to the experience. That was the difference. That's what made the difference for me. And that was so, it's night and day, those two things. It's not that one develops into the other and one is just a stronger experience or a deeper experience than the other. They're just not the same. One is just ideas and theories and concepts and meaningless ultimately. And the other one is rich and heartfelt and deep and personal and real. And it was just an awakening almost to what the world is. But the funny thing for me is, you see, for a lot of people, and it sounds like you're saying that to some extent as well, is that you awoke to something and almost like by surprise, like, whoa, I didn't realize that was there. That's amazing. And there's something beautiful in that. For me, it wasn't that. To me, I knew it was there. I knew what I was looking for. I just had no idea how to find it. I just didn't know how to get there. And it took me by surprise almost. I found the three principles when I wasn't looking for them. And let me say what I mean by that, because I'm sure you talk about this, but to me, the three principles is not the three principles. And I know that kind of sounds a little strange and a little weird. But to me, the three principles are pointing towards something intangible, something that you can't kind of describe or you can't find words for. So we use these three principles, these three ideas that sort of, when you look into them and consider them and reflect on them, you have a chance of seeing beyond them to that which we're really trying to point to. So Sydney Banks, who I'm sure you've talked about, who was the kind of the founder and the initiator of this understanding, he always talked about and always say, it's all about the feeling. It's the feeling that you're looking for. It's not the ideas. It's not the concepts. Forget the three principles. He would say, sometimes people tell me there's a fourth principle. I can tell you a fourth principle. And he would say, find four principles. Call it what you want. It's not what it is. It's the feeling. Just don't get distracted by the details or by the concepts, Just look for something deeper in yourself. That's all we're trying to point towards. And when you find it, you'll know what it is and you'll know what we're talking about. And that's kind of what happens with people. So I didn't go, when I came across the three principles, I was, the only reason I went is because I was running an organization with another rabbi, and the two of us were in conflict with each other. We kind of got caught up in a load of nonsense and a load of narratives about each other. And about kind of what the organization should be about in our minds. And somebody said to us, there's this great place you can go where they're really great at conflict resolution. And that's all we went for. I didn't go to learn about the three principles. I went to try and resolve a conflict. But I found so much more in doing so. I found something so much deeper and so much more powerful that really has had such a massive impact on my life, which I'm so grateful for.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love hearing people's origin story.
Yeah. Truly. Absolutely.
Yeah. And was it a conference that you had attended?
Well, I can say more about it if you want. I mean, I don't know if you're okay, good. Because I just sometimes feel like, well, I've said it before, so people probably know it, but
not this audience.
Yeah, no. There you go. So I will say it again. So yeah, that's what was going on. We were in deep conflict with each other. We were tearing the organization apart. People were taking sides, some sides with him, some sides with the other, and those that took sides kind of were in conflict with the other people who took the other side. It was such a mess. And it was quite a big organization at the time. There were about maybe 30 or 40 employees. And so somebody said to us, the president of the organization, it was a charity, president said to us, you guys got to sort this out. He kind of said, I got to knock your heads together. This is I don't care about your own personal issues. Think about the work that you're doing. So he said, I don't care what it is, I'll fund anything that you want to do, but you need to find something that can help you resolve this conflict. So we asked around and had people for suggestions, and somebody said, there's this place in Washington State, a little place called Lacona, called Pransky and Associates, and they're great at conflict resolution. So we knew nothing about it whatsoever. That's all that we knew, nothing else. So we went there. It's a long flight, a long journey, and even once you land, it's a couple hour drive over there as well from Seattle. And we're not knowing what to expect. Nothing. We didn't sit next to each other on the plane. That's how kind of what our relationship looked like. And I think we went together in the same car. I think we rented a car together, but it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't. I can't remember. This is over 20 years ago now. And so we get there, and firstly, the first thing is the two people came into work with us, Keith Blevins, I don't know if you know Keith, and Aaron Tanner, who was last week on your program. There you go. So we're like, oh, where's the Pranskys? What's this? Who are these guys? We want the proper people. Pransky seems like the name around here. Well, no, they were away. Sorry, you can't have them. We'll have to make do with Keith and Aaron. We're like, okay, if you tell us that, we'll do what we need to do. And so we kind of sit down, the four of us, and they start talking to us about absolutely nothing whatsoever. Just what I would say nonsense. How was your flight? How long did it take you? Did you watch any movies on the flight? How was the food? How did you get here? Did you see the tulips on the way? Like 45 minutes of just rubbish, absolute rubbish. And so after 45 minutes, they say to us, that was a really great session. You guys deserve a break. Go out for a nice walk in the town. It's a beautiful place, and come back in an hour or so. So now me and this guy were as busy-minded as you could possibly get. And we're thinking, like, we've got 4 days here. You just used 1/8 of that in talking about nonsense and going on a walk. How are you going to help us over here? We thought we were certain we came to the wrong place, and we got mixed up. We gave her the wrong directions on Google Maps, and they sent us here, and we meant to go over here. So we got out for a walk, obviously not together, and we come back, and then they start talking about more nonsense. What do you think about new furniture? So somewhere along the way, we said to them, hold on a second, guys. We just want to get something clear here. Do you guys know why we were here? Why we're here? Did anybody tell you why we're here? Do you think we're the interior designers or something? They might be coming next week, but I promise you that's not us. They said, oh, no. We know why you're here. We were told, don't worry. I was like, okay, that's a good start at least. They said, but to be perfectly honest with you, we didn't need to be told. The minute you guys walked in a room, we could figure out for ourselves why you're here. And we were like, oh, that's interesting. They said, yeah, you're wearing it all over your faces and your body language, just how you feel. They said, but here's how we work over here. We believe that when people are in what we call a low state of mind, and they have a conversation with each other, two people in a low state of mind, we don't think that's going to get very far. What do you guys think about that? And we were like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. We hear what you're saying, Two people are in a low state of mind. How is a conversation going to be helpful at all? So we were like, okay. And what was interesting for me was I'd been a rabbi for 15 years at that point. And I'd done a lot of counseling and supporting people going through challenging times and conflict resolution. I'd done that myself. And I just got this just thought that, boy, how come that's never occurred to me? You know, if I was doing conflict resolution in the past, to me, they come in the room. I don't care about their state of mind. I would expect their state of mind to be bad because they're in conflict. Let's get down to business. You know, what do you think? What's on your mind? Okay, great. Now did you hear what he said? Tell me what he said. Let's do some reflective listening. You know, I want to hear what he said and make sure you heard him. And you know, I've done this, and it didn't bother me. And I really got reflective about this. It didn't bother me that, in my experience, I had not been very helpful at all to people in conflict in the past. If I really was honest with myself, I hadn't done very much. I'd still done the same thing, you know. Just what is it? I think they say it in the name of Einstein. I don't think it's true, you know, that craziness is when you do the same thing exactly the same way and expect different results. But this really struck me. My gosh, maybe these guys are onto something. So that's very powerful for me, and it kind of humbled me. And I thought, you know what? Let's listen to these guys. These guys are onto something over here. What also impressed me straight away was what I felt was their humility. I felt they really had a lot of humility. I didn't feel they came in saying, "Oh, we know, and we know what we're talking about, and we're the ones who can help you over here." And no, they weren't saying that at all. They were saying, "No, you guys need to help yourselves. Now, we might be able to give you some ideas that might be helpful, but we can't do anything more than that. You guys are going to have to figure this out on your own." I didn't like that, but I kind of knew there was something in it. I wanted them to wave a magic wand and get rid of our conflict. But I kind of knew in my heart of hearts that wasn't the way you do it. And the world doesn't work like that. So I was ready to listen to them and said, okay, very nice. I agree with you. We need to get into a better state of mind. That's great. Now that's the easy bit. Now, how do you do that? And they said, well, now that you ask, that's what we're really good at. You've come to the right place if you want to get into a better state of mind. We share this understanding called the three principles, and we think that can be really helpful for you. So I was like, okay, I'm up for it, you know. Let's hear. Now, funnily enough, and I don't say this in a negative way, it's just the reality, my partner wasn't interested at all. He was like, you know, the minute we got out of the room, he's on his BlackBerry, it was at the time, you know, and doing his emails and getting on with all the stuff he needed to get on with, and it wasn't interested. But for me, I was like, you know, these guys are onto something over here, and I want to hear. I want to hear what they got. So so we split up. I went with Aaron, and my partner went with Keith. And we spent 2 days or so just learning about the principles. Nothing to do with our conflict. We weren't even in the same room together. And after about 2 days or so, I don't code the timeline, but I was in my, I went back for lunch, let's say, or for a snack or something to my hotel room for a break. And I'm sitting in my hotel room, and it was amazing to me that I found myself just relaxing and relaxing and relaxing and just settling down. And I didn't know why, because all they were doing was teaching me about the principles, about the idea of the world being inside out, not outside in, and about the idea of states of mind and what consciousness is and how our thinking works. And I didn't understand the connection between how does that get you to here. I didn't see a relationship between the two, but I saw it was working, and I saw they were onto something, these guys. So I just kept listening and listening and listening. I go to my hotel room in a really nice feeling. I'm in a really nice feeling, the best feeling I'd been in a very, very long time. And now you know, whenever I tell this story, I say that at this point in the story, when I first came back from Lacona and told this story to my wife, she said to me, "Don't you ever tell this story to anybody ever again." She said, "They will think you are absolutely insane." She said, "You can tell me because I'm your wife, but if you tell anybody this story, you are going to be totally, people will just, what's the word? They will just think they're wasting their time talking to you. They think you lost your marbles. So I was like, but nowadays, my wife is very happy for me to tell the story. My wife was, I mean, that's a long story in of itself, how she became involved with the principles. That was hard work. But it's for another time, maybe. But so what happened was, I'm looking at a table. There's a table there, and just sitting, reflecting, and seeing this table, and I'm feeling more connected and feeling touched on a deeper level. And I'm seeing the table as I'm doing it, as I wasn't doing this consciously. It just was happening to me. And suddenly, hard to describe, but I went into this really deep place within myself. And I looked at that table and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not a table. That's God. That's just spiritual energy in the form of a table. It's not real. It's just something tangible in form, but what's really behind it is something more and something deeper and something much more beautiful. And I was so moved by that. And I was so touched by that realization. And then I start looking around the room and I see some curtains, and that's not curtains either. And it was almost like the whole world fell away. And I saw beyond the illusion of the world to the real truth of the world, to what's really behind the world, to the spiritual energy that is this universe, that is the foundation of the universe before form. And I started crying. The tears started pouring out my eyes, and had this most beautiful, beautiful feeling of being touched and connecting. And I don't know how long I sat there for, but it was one of the absolute highlights of my life, sitting and looking at that table in a hotel room in La Cana. You know, it was just like, there's very little in my experience of life in 58 years that I can compare to that. So if anything at all, you know, we've just, thank God, had our 9th child, and you know, seeing those children come out is just so godly and spiritual and uplifting. But this was more than that. This was something beyond that even. And so I suddenly had this thought, oh my gosh, we're meant to be meeting. You know, I'm here, I'm not, there is a real world out there that I need to deal with. and we were actually going to get together, all 4 of us, for the first time since we got there, because they were feeling that we're starting to get somewhere here. So I ran back. I'm running back to the meeting, and I'm thinking on the way back about my partner, because that's where I was going back to now. My thoughts shifted to my partner, but I was still in this feeling. A feeling like that doesn't just disappear in a moment. I still had that feeling in my heart, but my mind was thinking about my partner. And as I'm thinking about my partner, and I've told this story quite a few times, and everybody knows the answer to this question, I ask and I say there was only one feeling available to me with regards to my partner at that moment in time. And everybody says, yeah, that feeling was love. That's all. That was the only available feeling in that feeling of connection. There was nothing else there for me. Couldn't have anything else. And the funny thing is, I even tried. I was like, no, that can't be love for this guy. He's not a nice guy, you know. And I was like, well, really? Or is that just a story you made about him? And I'm like, well, no, he's arrogant. And I'm like, well, and you're so humble, you know. and I was like, yeah, but he did this, and this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, and you did that, and that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is driving me mad. I want to not like this guy, and I can't. It's just like there was like something. The system got overridden, and I couldn't help myself but feel that feeling of love. And that was an amazing experience for me. I went back into the room, and I walked in, and I said, I'm sorry I'm late, because I was late, but I just want you guys to know that you have solved this relationship 100%. We're done over here. We've got what we came for. Everything's good. because I knew that the insight that I'd had and the sense that I'd had about him and about my relationship was going to change me forever in that relationship. I couldn't go back. There was no going back to the anger and the frustration and the hatred that was there before. It was like washed clean. This kind of spiritual energy had kind of come through me and washed out all the nonsense, and the nonsense couldn't get back in. And so I just, at that point, we solved that one. But then I realized, there's something here. There's something here. As a rabbi and as an educator, all my life I've been looking for something that can point people to this spiritual essence within themselves and within others. And I found it. And I got to go back and teach this. And I'm going back to England, and there wasn't really much going on in the UK at the time with regards to the principles. But I said, I got to find a way of sharing this with others, because it's so valuable. And so if it touched me like that, it can touch anybody. So that's kind of my origin story, as you say.
Oh, it is the most beautiful origin.
Thank you.
Yes, and I couldn't have asked for a better use of time with you, because
good.
Because to me, what I'm hearing in you is that this is what occurred to me, and I apologize, because especially the fact that you're a rabbi, now I feel I'm even more on top of my thinking now. What occurred to me as you were talking about that moment between you and the table, when you realized, basically, oh my goodness, we are all part of this beautiful spiritual energy that animates everything, the table and me and the speaker that I can't stand and the flowers and everything else. In 2025, some people listening to this might go, that sounds like an experience that you can only reach when you do mushrooms.
Very cute. Very cute.
What I mean? Like, people feel like in order to get to a place where they drop out of all of their personal things, that it takes something outside in to do.
That's right. Absolutely.
And that's what's so stunning about this really meaningful, heartfelt share from you and your experience. Because in that moment, there was nothing going on, literally. Like our personal thinking mind, your intellect, as we say, went completely asleep. And all that was left was life.
Yeah, beautiful. I love the way you put that. It's exactly what it was. Perfect articulation of what happened to me there. Oh. Exactly. There was no me. I was gone. The personal me was gone. And I was just a part of something greater and more beautiful, that is what this universe is about. Yes. And there's no greater experience than that. No. There really isn't. No. And I think it's what we human beings all seek. And I think you're right. It's why people turn to hallucinogenic substances, in order to, that people want that. Everyone wants that. It's what we human beings are desperate for. But we don't know how to get it. And so, someone once said to me, hey, why don't you try mushrooms? Mushrooms are really cool. And I said, well, first, as a rabbi, I'm not sure it's something I want to do, but I'm open-minded. I said, what do you think it can do for me? So they said, well, exactly what you're saying, it has the potential to help you drop out of your personal mind and just find a deeper spiritual experience. So I said, well, why do I need mushrooms for that? Why did it take some mushrooms for that? That's available to me anyway. And they were like, well, I don't know. That's a good question. They couldn't really have an answer for me, It's like, why would I want to do that artificially when it's available to me in my day-to-day life, if I just keep looking and keep looking deeper and keep looking for more? And I see that and to me, this understands a journey that you never reach the end of. There's always deeper, and there's always more to see, and there's always more insight and something new to wake up to, and another realization there. And so as I look more, that experience is more available to me in my day-to-day life. Well, that's what I want. I don't want something that can give it to me every time I take a mushroom and And then anyway, I'm not in life when I do that. I'm just kind of in my own little experience. I want something, then give me that in my day-to-day life. And to me, that's what the principles are. They're like, be conscious mushrooms, let's call it that.
Are we talking about a rebrand for the UK?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking as you're saying it here. How can we brand this? How can we brand the conference? Come and take mushrooms and bring the experience of mushrooms into your day-to-day life without having to take anything.
Or pay for it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Pay for the conference that takes you for the rest of your life. Not the.
That's right. You'll be on a trip forevermore if you come to this conference.
I'm really laughing, but at the same time, it's not wrong.
Yes, I know, exactly. It's not. Well, humor is about truth anyway. If something's not true, you don't laugh at it. It's like, it's real. This is what it is. And it's funny to me that people are seeking it here, there, and everywhere, and they get tastes of it, with drugs or with whatever they might have. But to me, the real place to find it is to look inside yourself and to know how to see it in there, and to know how to find it in there. And to me, that's what these principles point to.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Oh, you said at one point, which I appreciate, you said something about, we constantly use the terminology, the three principles to try to point to something. And it's interesting because having spoken to Aaron and now speaking to you, and because I'm using three principles because it's part of the title of the conference, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't often say three principles. I usually reference it as the understanding because it to me, for my own experience, because I kind of arrived to the understanding of the principles via my own insight. When I was really depressed, I had an insight that all of my feelings were coming from my thoughts, not the
Wow, that's amazing. That's great when you find it yourself like that. That is really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. I should just say thank you to
exactly
the universe and everything else. And then I ran out of the shower saying to my mom, I was raised in a family of therapists, and I ran out of the shower to tell my mom, oh my God, what have we been doing? We've been looking in the wrong direction. And she said, I've been just looking into something called the three principles.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. What synchronicity there. That is incredible.
Oh, it was wonderful. And she was retiring from her private practice, and she just started to kind of look in this direction.
Wow. So cool.
Yeah. But all of that being said, what I find is, when we talk about the understanding of like how our mind works and kind of getting an understanding of there's a beautiful feeling that we experience and drop into so often in and out of our days. And that can then get covered up by a busy mind.
Yeah.
And once you start to see it and understand that, which we all kind of know at some level, that all of a sudden we start to kind of get onto it and recognize when we're going in an unhelpful direction.
Yeah. That's right. That's so valuable. That's so helpful.
It's so valuable. Yeah. All of that being said, I just wanted to say for the listeners, which is what you and I are also trying to say, not to get caught up in the words of the three principles.
Yeah.
No, because
I'll tell you something funny, Jessie, which is that we've had this experience so many times at the conference. Is that, people come at the end of the conference, even at the end of the conference, and they'll say, oh, wow, that was a beautiful conference. I'm so touched and I'm so moved. And it was amazing. And I'm so grateful. They said, but I just have one question. What are the three principles? You promised me a three principles conference. You didn't even talk about them. I don't even know what they are. So exactly what you're saying, that's exactly what it is. It's not about these mind, consciousness, and thought, and knowing what they are and understanding what they are. Like you say, it's about the experience you had there. It's about having a realization that our feelings come from our thinking. A realization like that is gold, absolute gold. A realization, not a thought, not an idea, not a concept, but a realization. That is what the principles are about. It's about just pointing people to try and help them wake up to their own realizations. And I have no idea, how, as I said earlier, how teaching them about mind, thought, and consciousness helps them do that. But it seems to work. It seems to do something. So I'm practical. I'm pragmatic. I go where things work. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
That's why, oftentimes, because in the past, I would say that, that I would consider myself a spiritual person, but I think I just meant that. And so that was like so people knew that I was open-minded.
Yeah, exactly. You wanted to kind of, project yourself that way. That's,
Yeah. I didn't really even know what I was saying about myself.
Yeah.
I just wanted people to know I'm an open-minded person, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then once I had this realization around all of this, and then, got curious about what the hell was that insight? Where did it come from when I had been in this deep crippling depression where I was ruminating the same 10 thoughts over and over again?
Yeah.
Where did that helpful information even come from?
Exactly.
All of a sudden, looking to the spiritual nature of life, just as you just said, I'm only repeating what you just said.
Yeah.
It's 100% practical.
Yeah, it really is.
What a bonus that it's deeply meaningful.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It's it's just incredible. I mean, I all the time I feel so grateful. I feel like Sid. Sid used to say, and Chipman, who was one of the three principles, really the most beautiful and deep of the practitioners in my experience, who just passed away recently, and I've just had his memorial service. But he used to say as well that, he just used to love the three principles, because all that happens is you go around the world and you find people who are asleep, and you tap them on the shoulder and you watch as they wake up. That's really all it is. It's all available. They're just asleep. You're not teaching them anything. You're not showing them anything. You're not teaching them something they don't already know. In fact, you're not giving them any information, really. There's nothing coming from you to them. It's just sort of helping them to find what they see and what they know and what's within themselves. And that's such a gift to give to people. And I am deeply grateful that I have the wherewithal through this understanding to be able to share that with others.
Yes, that's magnificent. Shaul, keep going.
Go on. I was going to say, just on a practical level, that's what the conference is. The conference is 3 days of really just immersing in this understanding in person. It's in London, so it's in June, so the weather's good though. But if you do it in person, there's something very special about being there in person. There really is. Just the feeling in the room and the interaction, engagement with the other people and with the speakers and the presenters. It's very, very powerful to be there. However, what we found is, and this is why we do a hybrid conference, is that during COVID, obviously, we had to do it purely on Zoom. And we found that there's something to be had even in that case, because the ideas are there and the feeling is there, and you can kind of connect to that even virtually. But then we realized that the real value, or the best way, the ideal scenario is what we call a hybrid, which is in person and on Zoom, because then the feeling generated in the room is available to the people on Zoom as well. It's kind of there. You connect to what's going on. You get a sense of like the atmosphere and what's happening at the conference. So it's still very, very, very worthwhile to do it virtually. But there's nothing you can't beat in person. I'll say that again.
Wonderful.
It really is amazing. We used to before COVID. COVID really just kind of knocked it all out the water. But our last conference before COVID, which was in 2019, we had almost 1,000 people there in person. Now last year we had 250 in person and about 400 or 500 on Zoom. So the numbers on a lot less, but but we're trying to get momentum again. We're trying to build the momentum because we feel like it's such a service to people. And anybody who comes gets moved by it, gets touched by it, gets changed by it. I'll just give you one example, if I can, that occurs to me. This is a crazy example. This type of example that my wife would say, don't tell that story as well. So here's another one of those. But I'm just telling you as it happened to me, that's all. So this was about, I can't remember how long ago, 5 years ago, let's say, at the conference. I think it might have been that 2019 conference. A friend of mine said to me, this conference started on Sunday, and he called me on Saturday night, and he said to me, look, I've got this guy over who's a friend of mine. He's here from Switzerland. He has terrible, terrible, terrible OCD. He hardly goes out the house. He comes to England once a year because he needs to, because he has to. He doesn't like to be around people. It's very hard for him. He's on all sorts of medication, you name it, and he just has the most horrible life for himself, unfortunately. He said, and he was meant to go back to Switzerland tomorrow, but his flight got cancelled. And so he's got an extra day in London. And I was thinking, maybe he should come to your conference. You know, maybe that could be helpful for him. I said, for sure, absolutely. I said, look, tell me who he is, and I'll meet him. I'm sure he's going to be uncomfortable coming in. I said, I'll meet him at the door. And I organized for him to meet with Mark Howard. You know Mark Howard? So Mark Howard is one of the Three Principles practitioners. I said, Mark, would you come in sort of 45 minutes before the conference, spend a little bit of time with this guy just to get him to feel comfortable, just to kind of share with him some of the ideas. So Mark said, for sure. Mark is just an amazing man who just lives his life to be of service to others. And so came in, met with Mark, and I'm busy running the conference, you know, for 1,000 people. So I just totally forgot about this guy entirely. I just got on with the conference. It was a great day at the conference. At the end of the conference, I see him over there, and I see him coming towards me. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, I wonder how it went for him. So he walks over to me, and I say to him, well, how did it go? He says, oh, I don't have OCD anymore. I said, hold on a second. Don't be so quick. You know, what do you mean you don't have OCD? He says, no, I'm done, I'm cured. I don't have OCD. I said, you don't get over OCD that quickly. You know, there's a diagnosis here. There's something real. It's like, no, I'm all better. He says, and I'll show you. I said, okay, how are you going to show me? He walks over to the bin, you know, to the garbage can. He takes something out of the garbage can and he licks it. He said, you don't need to show me anymore. Fine. Enough showing me. And I got the point. I was like, he said, you know, when I came in this morning, I couldn't have walked within 6 feet of that garbage can. I would have made a 6-foot detour around it. He says, I've had the realization that that's just me creating thoughts and an experience for myself. I don't think that's real anymore. He says, I can go up and lick this thing. He says, I'm getting off all my medication tonight. I'm like, no, slow down. I won't take responsibility for that. Just take it easy here. Medication has to be dealt with carefully and responsibly. So anyway, off he disappeared. And I didn't meet him again for a couple of years. A couple of years later, I bump into him on the street. And I said, how you doing? And he said, you know, I'm doing so much better. He says, I don't believe I have OCD anymore. He says, it wasn't quite as simple as I thought it was. He said, it took me a little while to get off my medication. He says, but I'm sorted out. I'm cured. I'm out in the streets. I can be with people. I don't worry about the garbage cans anymore. I don't worry about cleanliness. It's all done. It's all done and dusted. It's all sorted. Now, that's an extreme case, but it is the potential of this understanding. That is what can happen. I'm not saying that happens to people. It happens to maybe some individuals here and there. That's what can happen. I've seen that at our conference. I have seen many cases like that at our conference where people just suddenly came to a realization. And I'll just tell you quickly one other thought, which is my wife, my dear wife. When I came back from Lacona, and I told her about this understanding, she was like, well, very nice, and all your tables and God and all that rubbish, that's nice for you, but I'm not interested. I said, but it could be so helpful for you. She said, I don't need any help. I'm doing good. Leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with it. So I was like, well, okay, fine. She wasn't doing so well, but she didn't see that or wasn't willing to see that. Anyway, I said to her, come, let's go and spend some time with somebody and just humor me. Do me a favor. I'm your husband, spend a few days. We'll go to Lacona and we'll do some learning about it. So very reluctantly, she was like, well, you want to take me on a trip to the west coast of America? I won't say no, and we spent some time with somebody over there, 4 days, and I loved it. And I was just like, oh, great. And more of this stuff and more of this understanding and going deeper. And I said to her, tell me, Hannah, what did you think at the end of the 4 days? She says to me, she had this phrase she said, she's too happy, that lady. She said, I don't like people that are that happy. It's not. I said, but she's happy. What's wrong with being happy? She said, no, it can't be real. She's too happy. It's all a show. And I was like, but didn't you listen? It doesn't look like a show to me. And then she says, yeah, look, this lady lives overlooking a lake with nice white carpets, no children to bother her, no family, no responsibilities, no nothing. I could be happy doing that as well. She says, I've got 5 kids and I've got responsibility and I've got a husband and I've got all this stuff to deal with. She said, no, not for me. I'm not interested. I don't want to know. So I was persistent. About a year later, Owen Turner was coming over to visit England. He's from England originally. I got us set up for a few days with him. After a few days, I said, what do you think? She's like, well, there's some nice ideas, but it's not for me. I'm not interested in it. Then about 2 years later, all the way through, she's not interested, doesn't want to know, But here's what was funny, is if we had an argument, if we had a problem and we were frustrated with each other. So if I was frustrated with her, if she was frustrated with me, she would say, you've got to apologize. You've got to sort this out. You've got to deal with this. If I was frustrated with her, she would say to me, why don't you put on one of your George Pransky CDs and I'm sure you'll feel a lot better. It's brilliant. I was stuck. But you know what? The funny thing is she was right. She was absolutely right. She was wrong in her feeling, but she was right about me. She was right. Oh, that's all I needed to do. I just needed to recalibrate. I just needed to find my well-being again, and I wouldn't be frustrated anymore. So I tried again with, I don't know if you know Mara Gleason. She spent a few days with Mara Gleason next, and she was still like, it's all very nice, but I'm not interested, really. It was like amazing. This is years. This is years and years and years. I would say this was a process of 7 years. 7 years. Now, wind forward 7 years, and we had my conference. It was about our 3rd or 4th conference. She hadn't come to any of them, wasn't interested to come. And all of a sudden, she says to me the day before the conference, maybe I think I'll come in the morning tomorrow. And I was like, really? I was like, now what happened was, she kind of says in retrospect that she was starting to really struggle in her life at that point. And she saw me and she saw my husband seems to be doing so well. What's he got that I haven't? There's something at this conference I should look into. So she, I was like, well, yeah, please, absolutely. So she comes to the morning conference and she says, at lunchtime, she was still there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, what are you doing here? She says, do you think we could find somebody to pick up the kids from school this afternoon? Because I'd like to carry on at the conference. I was like, I can find somebody. Don't worry, we'll figure that out. So she stays at the conference, and she came for all 3 days of the conference. Totally changed her life. At the end of the conference, she said to me, Aaron Turner was starting a course for practitioners. She said to me, I'd like to go on Aaron Turner's course for practitioners. I said, 3 days ago, you didn't even believe in this stuff. Now you want to be a practitioner? She says, I've seen what it is. I've seen something more. I know the truth behind it. Why wouldn't I want to teach it straight away? Well, I need to spend longer time to see just how true it is. She says, I've found something real in myself and an understanding, and I'm ready to go and share that with others. And my wife today is one of the most respected and admired practitioners in the community. And I look up to her as a practitioner like I look up to anybody in the community. She is absolutely amazing. And she transforms people's lives over and over again. So, and that was a conference, nothing had spoken to her. Nothing had helped her. She'd seen nothing. I suppose it's when you're ready, that's when you see something. But it happened to be the conference. And I think, there is something there. And that's why we do it. And that's why we put it out there. Because you come for 3 days, hopefully somewhere along the way in those 3 days, something will strike you and you'll see something and you'll wake up to something.
I think that's a beautiful share. And I love both because number one, I'm coming up on 8 years in my private practice working with people in this way. And hundreds of people get touched in the way that you and I did, right?
Yeah.
You and I both experienced that instant. I went from depression to no depression in one thought, right?
Yeah.
You went to seeing God in a table.
Yeah. Just in a moment.
In a moment.
Yeah, really.
And, but I really appreciate, and it probably is what really helps people hear her even more strongly. I bet you with Hannah's, story of, I was in resistance. I was in a world of thought that nothing could actually be helpful. And
Absolutely.
That was actually what wasn't helping me.
Yes, that's right.
But I can imagine that really gets people's ears up because they're like, oh, wait a second. This feels familiar.
Yeah, it sounds like me. Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. Well, thank you so much for the story.
Pleasure. I really enjoyed spending the time with you.
Oh, and it is early time over here in Los Angeles. I am just at the most beautiful feeling to start.
That's great.
So thank you so much.
That's great. Absolutely. Real pleasure.
Yes, good. So let's put out the dates. 3 Principles UK conference in London, and that's going to be June.
Now you're asking me.
I believe they're the 21st to the 24th. Does that sound right?
It sounds right, but it doesn't sound exactly right. It's somewhere around there.
23rd, I think, actually.
The 21st to 23rd. That sounds right. Let me just tell you for sure. No, we're both wrong. It's the 22nd to the 24th. I'm terrible. I'm good at the spiritual stuff, but I'm not very good at the practical stuff.
I love that. Okay, perfect. And
now, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Did Aaron know the dates? I want to just check up on him.
You know what's funny is I took a stab at the same dates that I said to you, and he goes,
yeah.
And he had the same reaction. He goes, that feels right, but not right.
Very good, yeah. I had a feeling that might be the case because we're kind of similar like that.
So between the three of us, we're all
we got there in the end, yeah. That's right. We pieced it all together.
Yes. So quickly, Shaul, independent of 3P UK, where can people find more about you?
Oh, more about me? Gosh, I don't know.
And the work you're doing with the rabbis?
Well, they can look on, I have a website. Yeah. Let me just see. I think it's tikkun.co.uk. I'm focused on my rabbinic stuff, but I have more than that still, just sitting in the background. Yeah, tikkun, tikkun.co.uk. I've got all sorts of writings on there. I've got all sorts of videos on there. It is that website is focused more on the Jewish audience, but the ideas I talk about, my experience are very universal, and I think anybody would appreciate it. It's not uniquely for the Jewish community.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. And then for the 3P UK conference that we're here talking about, that is 3puk.org.
I think, 3puk.org. Yeah, there we go.
And I will link it into the show notes too. I'll link all of
Great.
these things in the show notes so people can
Great.
very easily just go
Great.
into
Great.
the literature
Oh,
for.
thank you, Jessie. It's so kind of you to kind of share this.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I think we're all in the same boat. We just see the value of these principles, and we all have our own way of kind of putting it out there and sharing it. But I think we're all looking to be of service. That's all.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah,
we know how desperate it feels to want to be engaged in life and to feel fulfilled by
yeah,
our lives.
that's
We've
right.
all been
That's right.
there, and now we get
Yeah,
to experience that. And
that's
we
right.
all
And it's so sad for us to kind of look out there and see so much suffering in the world, and we know that it's just there's just a key there that could take that all away if people would but understand and see more for themselves.
Yes.
It's just sad. It's almost like people are locked in a cell and they don't realize the door's not locked. It's open. You could just walk out.
Yes.
And yet they stay there for their entire lives.
What you just said felt like a mic drop moment.
No.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Talk about, ooh, very, very good. Well,
Thank you.
Shaul, I will let you go. Thank you so much for this wonderful interview and time with you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Jessie. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed spending the time with you. It was a real pleasure.
Oh, good.
And
Me,
let's do it again sometime.
I would love it. And I really look forward to meeting you in person someday
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I know
Okay.
it will happen.
Me too. Well, next time I'm in LA, you'll be on my list to look up.
Good. And I'll be in London in September. I'm teaching with Win Morgan. Be sure to say
be in
hi.
touch. Let's see. Let's meet up.
Good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
Well,
I look forward to it.
have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to What Moves You with Jessie. Let's stay connected. You can find more ideas and strategies on being human on my Instagram at What Moves You with Jessie. Sign up for my newsletter or learn more about working with me at whatmovesyouwithjessie.com. And please rate and review the show and let us know what you think and what resonated. I read every single review. They mean so much to me. You can also call in on our hotline with your thoughts on what resonated there too. It is always live at 818-646-JESS. That's 818-646-JESS. What Moves You with Jessie is produced by Mike McGraw and Tinker City Music. Now, let's take a deep breath and give ourselves permission to live in this moment for what truly moves you.